Good morning, everybody. Oh, I didn't even turn the lights on yet. Alexa, start the office nonsense. Oh, that's so much better. Okay, so good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday. I'm here, if not a few minutes late, and I'm glad that all of you are here as well. So we left off on Friday, I think on Friday, working on a number of things for our skill. But there's a couple of updates I want to give you on what's going on with the skill. Hey, Surly, good morning. Father Goblin, good to see you. So, what we're doing with this skill, aside from trying to demonstrate every feature and play with all the stuff that Alexa can possibly do, is we had a couple of things that we were working on. On Friday, I think it was Friday, may have been Thursday, we were working on permissions. One of the things that we built for this skill was a leaderboard. And so as users unlock achievements, they rise in the ranks of the leaderboard. And so we came up with a clever way inside our database to reorder, renumber all of the users based on their achievement scores. And so that happens automatically. But we wanted the way for the user to say, hey, where is my position on the leaderboard? And the skill could tell them. So all of that works. We can say, oh, you're in second place. You have 42 points or whatever. Where this became tricky, though, is as I started thinking about what a leaderboard would look like on the web or in APL on a screen here, is that I would need some way to represent the user, like a name or something. And so, my first instinct is to use the Amazon.firstname built-in slot that lets me collect users' first names. But that slot type has a really strong amount of gravity. And so it eats up a lot of the other utterances that may have landed elsewhere. So I didn't like that solution, although that is the most straightforward, easy solution to this. But I feel like it'll cause me problems down the road. So then our next step was, well, let's use the permissions model. Permissions in Alexa allow us to basically request access to a user's Amazon data. It's pretty limited what we can get. It's first name, I think it's first name or full name. And we're only going for first name. But you can get first name, full name, you can get mailing address, and I think you can get mobile phone number or phone number in general, something like that. Each of those are unique permissions, and the user has to grant each of those. So we built something last week that allows us to ask for that permission and then use that permission once it's been granted. And then that pulls stuff into our database. And so if we can get access to their first name, then we grab it and we store it in our database, and then we know that their name is Jeff or Tony or whatever. But it's not a super clean process right now. If they ask about the leaderboard, I'm going to say, hey, you're in second place. By the way, can you give me permission to get your first name? You can do it in the mobile app. Just go over here. And so they have to kind of stop using my skill and go into the phone and do the thing and then come back to the skill and be like, hey, leaderboard. And then I'm like, oh, cool, I got your name. That's the process that happens right now. So there is another model called voice forward permissions. And with this, which we have not built, voice forward permissions are basically, hey, I would really like access to your first name. Can I have it? Yes. Cool, I've got it. It's in the flow of the user using the skill. There's a couple of catches with that, it seems like, where a user has to set up what we call a voice profile, where the device can recognize their voice. And that's something that they have to manually do themselves. So I haven't touched that yet. But that is something that I want to do. But we're not going to do that today. I have something cooler I want to work on today. So I think I left myself a note. If I go to the scoreboard intent here, we'll jump over here so I can sit down too. I think I left a thing in here. Add voice forward account linking. So this is a to-do item. And then we'll use the card-based system when they're not able to do that or whatever. Does setting up a voice profile improve recognition? I think that those are two separate actions. So there's actually voice training. So you can actually train Alexa to better understand you. And this is marvelous for people that have difficulty speaking or pronouncing words or that have a heavier accent. So maybe they're an English speaker, but they speak with an Indian accent, as an example. You can train it to understand you, even though you're using U.S. English. You can say, hey, no, this is actually how I talk. And it gives you a series of sentences that you have to say to your device. Just this is a one-time setup. And then the voice training is done. So training is one thing. Voice profiling is recognizing your voice. And so in those cases, it's actually able to say like, oh, this is Jeff speaking versus this is Surly Dev speaking or whatever. Good morning, A-Witters. Or I guess good afternoon for you. But hello anyway. And so that's the difference between those two. But both of those things exist. But I don't know that setting up a voice profile would necessarily improve your recognition. A-Witters, I seem to be better. For those of you that don't remember, oh yeah, that's why I didn't stream on Friday. I kind of screwed up my back on Thursday, and I have a herniated disc, and so I haven't had any pain with it since really before COVID. But I had some times before COVID where it was really bad, like couldn't get up out of bed, couldn't stand vertically. It was rough. And I did some PT and got through some things, and all of that was good. And haven't had any issues with it at all. But I was doing, if you guys follow my Twitter, I've been working on my basement quite a bit, and I was getting down low to measure a thing, and my back just did not like that. And this pain shot down my leg, and I could barely move on Friday morning. So I decided not to stream on Friday morning. But I will tell you that I'm being more cautious. But like I drove 2 hours down to Ohio University on Saturday and visited my daughter and walked all over campus, and then drove the 2 hours back for her birthday. And did a bunch of other construction stuff on Sunday and Monday. So if you guys check out my Twitter, you'll see a picture of what we're doing down there. It's one of the projects, but I'm turning my basement into a retro arcade. So that was all going on. But yeah, so I haven't had any pain the last couple of days, even though I've been doing the same kind of work. So I must have just tweaked it weird or something. But anyway, thank you, A-Witters. I'm feeling much better. So the scoreboard intent is a thing we're going to come back to. We're going to do voice forward account linking. We'll probably do that this week if we're being honest. But there's something I realized I haven't done, and that is this guy, the help intent. And there's some we have a help intent, right? And so if I go look at get random speech for my database, so go to speech, find help. Should be after G. I have one help message. You can say things like play a sound effect or give me a speech counter. What is the latest news? You can also ask about any topic related to building Alexa skills, like tell me about persistence. Just ask. That is literally the only amount of help I'm offering in the skill at all right now. And that's not that I need to practice what I preach, right? I spend a lot of time talking about how you need to be incredibly helpful and reactive and customized for your user, especially for help. And I am not doing that. And so I thought it would be a good idea to demonstrate this in a way that is the way that you should do this, at least the way that I do this, and the way that I would like to see many other skills approach help. And so help is the thing that I want to work on today. So that's what we're going to do. So in here in help, you can see that I'm going in and I'm getting that help message, and there could be many of them, and I just randomly get one. And then I get a random action query, which is just like, hey, what do you want to do now? Right? I've given you some recommendations. What would you like to do? And then we finally have this one. And I just noticed that I have these awaits in here. I don't actually need these. This last one checks to see, have you gotten the achievement for using the help intent? And you only get that once, but it checks that. And if you have gotten it, if you haven't gotten it, then it awards it. And it adds the achievement speech. And if not, then it returns null. I think check intent achievements, if I go look at that, check intent achievements in here, we award a specific achievement. I don't actually know why I've kind of built this buffer. But anyway, award specific achievement looks like this, and all it does is returns no speech if you got no achievement, if you already had it or whatever. But if you did get it, then it returns a whole bunch of information about points and what your total is and a number of other things. Like, hey, congratulations, you got the achievement. So all of that stuff is there and working. We don't need to do anything with that. But what I want to do is make I want to make contextual help. And this requires one additional step in a number of places. So the help intent is going to use the thing that I'm going to create, but what I want to do at a basic level is go through each of my intent files and add a new property to my session variables. So we are going to back that up. So we have session attributes here. I'm just going to copy this because we're probably going to need this on a few where we are not using it yet. So session attributes is what we're going to use. And the first thing we're going to do after that is we're going to say session attributes.user. What should I call this? I never have a good idea of what I should call this. It's like last action, but basically what I'm doing, W. Giorgio, good morning. What I'm trying to do is give myself context about what a user is doing. So if they're using the answer intent, which is the thing we're looking at right now, they're going to say something like, tell me about Alexa Live. And I say, Alexa Live is on July 20th, 2020, or whatever.
Okay, here's national calendar.
Alexa, stop.
On the
And so I tell them something, and maybe that's not what they wanted, or maybe not what they were expecting, or they don't know how to do the thing they wanted to do, but they landed in the answer intent. So I want to know that they were in the answer intent. I want to know that that's the thing they just did before they said help. That was the action they took just prior to saying help, so that I have some context around what it is they were trying to do. So I'm going to call this session attributes.user. I don't even need the user part, but I'll keep it in there because it is part of the user object. It's what the user was doing. But it's never, I'm not persisting this to the database. User, we'll call it last action. Is that what I want to call it? User.last, I guess so. And this is just going to be answer intent. So, do I want to do that? Do I just want to say answer? I'm building a system here, and I feel like I want to make sure that I do this properly, because then what I'm going to have to do is have some kind of So what I'm going to do is have a bunch of help, right? So I'll have like a help underscore answer. Let's say that's what I do, and in here, I would have things like, it looks like you're asking me a question, but I don't seem to have the right answer for you. I don't know what I'm going to say here. I'm leaving that for now. It looks like you're asking me a question, but I don't seem to have the right answer for you right now. Which is, I don't know if that's, let's see. You, how can I do this? I also kind of want to make this a demonstration of the capability. You were just asking me, you were just using the answer intent. You can ask about things like, do I really want to just give them some answers to try? Don't love this. Gonna get rid of that. You can ask me about, I really gotta clean this list out. There's some things in here I love, but there's some things that just don't need to be in here also. This is what you did in Space Marauders. Yeah, I think this is a pretty natural approach to thinking about how to handle this. Let's just say you can ask me about things like, I got to come up with a couple good answers here that they may not have thought of. This one can go away. Do I have like analytics? I don't even have analytics, but I have this metrics dashboard. I think this is old. So we'll rename this to analytics dashboard. And so I'll say you can ask me about account linking, things like account linking, built-in slots, or in-skill purchasing. We'll do that. You can ask me about things like account linking, built-in slots, or in-skill purchasing. And if I don't have an answer, I'll make sure my team updates my data quickly. Okay, anyway, that's just a demonstration. I'm sure I'll change that content. Help answer is what I'm calling this here, which I think probably makes sense. So here, we're just going to call this answer. That way we can use that string to find the appropriate help response. Which we'll do in a second. So these two lines are really what I need at the beginning of every intent. So when we come in here, we can just replace this with that and say break. And then by product. Byproduct sounds like byproduct. I have another approach, but I don't know how to type it all out. Well, I'd be very interested. You can share it in Slack too if you've got some cool way to do a thing. I'm always interested. Okay. This is going to be domain. We're just basically taking the word intent off of all of these. And this one's going to be emotion. It's interesting how I use session variables on some of these and not on all. Emotion. And emphasis. Whoa. And I have this first name intent, but I've actually disabled it, so like it can't be used right now. So I'll skip that. Help intent. That would be a funny one. I feel like this is being weird with me. Like it has a different, it thinks it's got different formatting than some of the other files. So we'll say help. This is if you ask for help while using help. That'll be a fun one. Launch request. We could do that. So much garbage in my launch request. I do a lot of testing in there. So this is going to be launch request. News intent is a good one. Office hours. Not really. Polyvoice. Prosody rate. Okay. Prosody. And the repeat intent. This is a weird one because I wouldn't actually give you help about the repeat intent. I would just repeat. I don't think I'm going to do that one. Scoreboard. What I have to figure out is if I don't have something like this, what do I do? So that's scoreboard. Session resumed request. What are we doing here? This is, oh, like if somebody bought something. Oh, that's going to be so messy. We're going to skip that one for now. This one has... I'm so worried that I'm just about to break something. Like, did I use session attributes somewhere else lower in the code? I try to do it right at the beginning if I'm going to use it at all. But sound effect, then SpeechCon. I think I just fixed this too. I've left this to-do sitting here, but I think I fixed it. Just a little background on getting a random SpeechCon. So I won't spend a ton of time on this. But I have these SpeechCons, right? All of these different terms that Alexa can say. And I created a type column, which is a bunch of things that are things like thank you or kidding or disappointment, celebration, lots and lots of them. But like categorizing them in the types of things that you have. Good morning, Kevin Evans. And when I was trying to pull these out of the database, I found that it was bringing me back a bunch with the type that I wanted, but also something that had no type. So like these three have no type. So what I had to do, and I don't think this feels right, but this is what I had to do. I went in and I added another type called no type. And now that they have a type, it just happens to be called no type, now it works perfectly. And so I can say, give me a disappointment SpeechCon, and it will give me one that is categorized as disappointment. I don't know why I have to do that. That doesn't seem right, because I'm saying only give me ones where the type has the word disappointment in the type. So it's weird that it's bringing me back disappointment and ones that don't have anything. But that's just disappointing, to be punny. Okay, so back to what we were doing. This is the SpeechCon one. But now it does work, and I've tested that. The SSML intent is something else that we should probably update while we're here. Okay, and then the stop intent. Stop intent exits, so I don't really need to tell you that you did that. And then the user event request is for touch events that will expand as well. So that one will get messy, like session resumed and a couple of these others. Okay. So I think we've done the thing that we needed to do first, which is add that value in there. And then we're going to close all. And we're going to come to the help intent. And now we want to get that value. Except I can't set it here because then I would overwrite what you're doing. So we as funny as that would be, I don't think we can do it. Okay, so what I need to do, let's just get the variable, get it into a variable. Help context equals session attributes dot user dot last action. And then we're going to do if help context doesn't equal undefined, then, goodness, so many notifications today. Var help speech is going to equal help. And then if it doesn't equal undefined, then I can say help speech plus equals underscore, and then in here we can do a help context. Okay, I just made a change to pretty much every bit of my skill and haven't tested any of it, so that feels great. I feel really good. This should then be help speech. No, not help speech, help type. I like help type better. Okay, so I'm saying help context is this last action value if it exists. If it doesn't exist, then we're just going to use help, which is the default help message. And if it does exist, then we're going to append whatever the last action was to it and then try to get that help. Which means that I also need help messages for all the different types. I'm not going to create all those. Well, maybe I'll create them, but I'm not actually going to write all the content right now. So I have help answer. We'll just duplicate this a few times. So that next one is help break. You were just using the break intent. Good enough. We'll do one of these. And then we'll just duplicate this record each time. The next one is byproduct. Okay. And then the next one is domain. Okay. Motion. We got some messages. If you have all of your intents data from CMS, you call to get your answer intent data, which includes the help message. Put that in the session attributes, and if someone says help after visiting answer intent, grab that data from the session and the help message. Hopefully that makes sense. I see. So you're pre-pulling it, right? Like you're basically getting the help at the same time that you're getting all of the other information. I think that's what you're describing, and then you would just have the help message available in session if you need it. Where I'm doing it the other way, I don't go get the help message until I need it. I think those are both valid approaches. I think that's what you're describing there, W. Giorgio. I'm going to slap the glasses on so I can maybe have a chance of reading here. Goodness. My eyes are so good. I just feel like for this little tiny text on this tiny monitor, I'm not succeeding. Okay, that was the emotion intent. Next up, emphasis. This is just to prevent my skill from breaking, because the way I have this, whole thing written is that it assumes that if I'm calling for a specific kind of content, that it exists, which may or may not be a safe bet. Yeah, you're bundling everything as one. That makes sense to me. I mean, it's not like you're making extra calls. You're just getting it all as one package each time. Not help. Launch request. You just launched the skill. How can you already need help? That will not stay, but it's funny. Okay. Launch news intent. News. Okay, I was just using the news intent, and then after that is office hours intent. Speaking of office hours, that's coming up here in just a minute. Not just a minute, like 2 hours, but soon enough. I have the APL team coming on again today. I like those guys. This is going to be help office hours. We've got some cool announcements to make today. Office hours and then Polyvoice. It just warms my heart to see all this content. Like, this is my favorite part of building skills, is just thinking about all the speech that's being generated and created, and I don't know, I find it so interesting. Prosody rate is next. Duplicate record, and then I imagine making 5 to 7, maybe 10 of each of these. It's a lot of content. I didn't even look what I need. Scoreboard. Duplicate. All right, we're almost there. Scoreboard and then sound effect. And then speech content. Almost there. And then the last one was SSML. And we're going to clean up that SSML one too because there's a bunch of stuff missing. Okay. So we have all of our help messages. We're going to go through and we're going to test these. I'm not too worried about testing help each time, but I do want to make sure that I didn't break these intents by introducing code into them. So let's come over here. Let's get some local debugging running. Just to make sure everything's not broken. And we'll say open voice developer. Drink some Red Bull.
Hello, and welcome to Voice Developer. This skill can give you information and answers about Alexa skill development. Did you know you can watch the most recent episode of Office Hours on your Echo Show? Just say play Office Hours. What would you like to do next?
Okay, I just remembered there's something else I want to do. To do. If there are news items labeled, marked as must hear, mandatory, marked as what? I don't know what to call this. You guys have no context for this either. So I have in my database, I have a table called news. In here, these are announcements, things that I want you to know about, right? Like, hey, A/B testing launched, or there's this new APL feature, or whatever. And you can always just say, what's the news, or what's the latest, or give me the most recent updates, or whatever, and it'll go through these items for you. I'm also going to use these as a separate skill, companion skill, that is just a flash briefing. And so you'll be able to have a flash briefing that you build into your daily routine or whatever, that will just read you these news items so that you can hear the latest flash briefing stuff. But I feel like there's going to be times where it is so important that I tell you something, that I want to tell you when you come into the skill. Like, no doubter, you got to hear this message. I'm going to be very reserved about how frequently this gets used, but I think that there's going to be times where it's important to let you know something. And I don't know what that is, but I feel like having the capability built in is a good idea. So if I create a new field, and we're going to call this is I'm going to call it is mandatory. That's kind of what I'm doing, right? I'm making news mandatory. You are gonna hear it. I don't know if I love that, but that's what we'll call it. Is mandatory. And so I'm not doing the building now, but as is mandatory. If there are news items marked as is mandatory, play them here instead of a recommendation. Yeah. Okay. That was something that popped into my head last night. It was just like that seems like it would be really important if I like the day that Alexa Live registration opens, or maybe that week. If you use this skill, I want to be like, hey, welcome to the voice developer skill. By the way, Alexa Live registration just opened. I want to let you know. And it comes out of my news and feeds right into your thing, right into your welcome message. But if you say, what's the latest, it will also be in there. Does that make sense? Again, not doing that today, but I just want to make sure I leave myself a note because I think that's an important piece of how this news needs to work. Sometimes it's urgent that I let you know. Sometimes it's just like, hey, we launched a new feature. You can ask about that. You can come in and ask anytime. By the way, guys, I can't wait to get this skill out and published so that you guys can use it because I really am very interested in your feedback and the bugs that I've introduced and everything else. Anyway, we have our code running. What I wanted to do is test some intent.